Welcome to MLS Matters, hosted by the Council Multiple Listing Services. We appreciate you taking the time today to be part of the community and part of the conversation, and most importantly, part of the solution. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted to the CMLS resource page along with a summary of the conversation. We encourage sharing. You will find all previous recordings and notes there as well. We're using Zoom meetings so everyone is able to speak but muted on entry, so that we ask that you remain muted unless you're speaking. CMLS has enacted all Zoom recommended safety protocols. That's for your protection, obviously. And I guess that would be the opportunity to introduce myself before we go into the moderated discussion. My name is Dave Howe. I'm the Vice President of MLS Operations for MetroList Services. I'm the incoming chair for the Council Listing Services, and I will be your host for today's session. We have a wonderful panel that we've put together made up of individuals from across the country that are Council Multiple Listing Service members. Most of which, and I think as MLS execs, a fair amount of you might have some experience in education at your local multiple listing services, and I know that that's I have a fond spot or soft spot in my heart for education. Did it for many years for MetroList Services in Northern California. Today we are joined by Rita Klein-Blevins. She is the Director of Professional Development for the Houston Association of Realtors. We have Ellen Montemurno, Director of Operations at Real Estate Informations Network. Molly Nelson, Director of Education and Training, UtahRealEstate.com. And Terry Rommel, Information Services Manager at RMLS. At this point in time, I'd like each one of them, starting with Rita, to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and we'll work on down through the list.
Well, depending on what time zone you are in, good afternoon or good morning, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Rita Klein-Blevins. I'm the Director of Professional Development for the Houston Association of Realtors. I've worked for HAR for a little bit over 22 years now, and wore a few different hats during that time, primarily meetings and events, handling international division, commercial, and but primarily professional development, education, and training. And so we kind of handle all of that which entails, and hopefully can share some things today and collaborate on ways that we can continue to improve. Thank you for having me.
Certainly looking forward to you sharing your ideas on what's going on here, Rita. Ellen?
Well, hi there. Also, thank you for allowing me to participate. I am the Director of Operations with RAIN and have been part of this organization for 17 years. Like you, Dave, I kind of started in tech support and then moved into training. I was the training coordinator for about 11 years. And now in my role, I just sort of oversee the magnificent trainers that we have. They do a great job, and yeah, excited to share some ideas and get feedback.
Fantastic. You know, we all have friends in low places there, Ellen, and certainly appreciate you coming up through the ranks. That's the genesis for quite a few of us. Okay, Molly.
Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. As mentioned, my name is Molly Nielsen. I'm the Director of Education and Training over at UtahRealEstate.com. I have a background on the association side here in Utah. At UtahRealEstate.com, our MLS is a completely separate organization from the association. So I started supporting members, supporting realtors specifically about 8 years ago, and moved over to being the head of training at UtahRealEstate.com about 4 years ago. And I absolutely love what I do. It's a really fun environment, even when we're forced to make huge changes and make a big shift in how we view our jobs and what we're doing. But it's a real pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you asking me.
Well, good to see you too, Molly. Yeah, our plan is today to go over the response to the COVID-19 situation and its impacts on the real estate training that you all are involved with. Terry, chat a little bit about us, about you. You're on mute, Terry. Go ahead. Yeah. Well, Betsy, can you unmute Terry?
There we go. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. Well, again, as the other panelists have said, thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this. I'm based in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Portland, Oregon is our home base, and I've been in this crazy industry for almost 30 years, all the way back to the book. So I started my real estate industry career back when the book was the thing. I can remember specifically the day that we got little thumbnail black and white photos in the book, and we thought that the world was going to stop. So, all the way from there to, the emergence of the internet, I've been involved with training and support my entire career, both actually providing those services and then managing folks that do. I'm very blessed to have a great team of people here in the Pacific Northwest, and look forward to today's meeting.
Yeah, Terry, it's interesting how little information realtors went off of in those little books and the thumbnails. And don't forget, the book was the first mobile device, and you can use
That's
that.
exactly right.
So, always accompany the realtor in the back seat. Well, we're here really to talk about training and what you're offering, kind of a reflection back on pre-COVID and how you've adapted to going all virtual. We certainly understand the different levels of training. They vary. You have in-office training, in-person training, large venue training, seminars, webinars, those types of things. And since we had a volunteer, I'm going to start with Ellen because she wanted so badly to have the first question on our panel. Ellen, how have you, and if you could share with the group, how have you adapted to the virtual training environment?
Well, thanks for holding to that promise of picking on me. I've been really fortunate to be part of RAIN in that they've really invested a lot of time and effort in the training. And prior to COVID, we have these just beautiful, well-appointed training spaces. So I would say about 75% of our training was done on site. We did kind of move away from hands-on and started allowing people to bring their own devices, which was really popular. We were no longer providing the laptop because we found agents really like to learn on the device they use. But 25% of our training was really devoted to online training, and that really helped us when we had to make the pivot because our trainers were already really familiar with the platform they were using. And I think the biggest challenge was taking some class content that made classes a little bit too long for an online presence and condensing that and offering something that people could stomach for an hour versus 2 hours. And then I think the unfortunate class is the new agent orientation. Not only do we have things that we want to provide like, keys and paperwork, but we kind of missed that opportunity to have a face-to-face first impression. We've managed and we're still onboarding new agents, which is a pleasant surprise during this time. But I think that's the class that maybe suffered the most out of everything. But training has been well received and well attended, so we're real happy.
Yeah, I appreciate your particular observation of the tolerance of time. You certainly cannot get, from what we've figured out, not much beyond an hour and a half. An hour is a good time, sometimes shorter is better. Mm-hmm. All right, Molly, you look like you're eager to answer this question, so.
I am. You can see me nodding away over here. Yeah, this situation has been so unique to all of us, and it doesn't matter what our role is, of course, in the MLS organization, we've all had to adjust. I think training specifically has had some really unique challenges. We are one of the only departments that can't actually do everything we're used to doing from home. So I will second what Ellen said in the importance of having already had a little bit of experience with the virtual kind of training, that has really helped us to make the transition. We've always at utahrealestate.com offered a really wide range of trainings, including short webinars. We purposely keep our webinars to about 20 minutes, but it was really important to us to continue to offer classes. So we too have restricted those classes to a single hour. But the thing that has allowed us to be the most flexible is probably the fact that as an MLS with a homegrown in-house development team that creates our own homegrown system, we had the benefit of being able to roll out a new training website. And all that is a basic calendar. We started actually in the training team creating that website in WordPress. That was definitely a challenge for us without, very few of us had any development background, but we made it the way we wanted it to be. And then our development team took it and implemented it into our MLS system. So we suddenly found ourselves in a position to detach a little bit from some of the restrictions that came from only advertising our trainings through other people's websites. Suddenly we could advertise our trainings exactly as we wanted to. We could reach our entire membership, didn't matter what their association was, what their brokerage was. And most importantly, it allowed me to kind of experiment with what works. Week to week, we make decisions on, you know, perhaps this wasn't the right day of the week, or maybe we could look at a different time or jazz up the name of a class or change the topic. So it's really helped us to be flexible in a time that absolutely demands flexibility.
So a question for you, Molly, on your short format time classes, are they single subject or do you try to cover a couple topics in those sessions?
That's a great question. So far, we've stuck with single subject. We might cover in 1 hour the statistics tools of our MLS system. In another, we might cover the CMA tools. So we have tried to stick to a single topic, and I think that's really helped not to overwhelm our attendees and make them feel as if they can't follow along.
Okay, thank you. Well, Terry, don't be offended. I do believe in ladies first, so I'm going to go to actual, who would be Rita with Houston. I was looking at HAR, thinking of Sam for some reason, but Rita.
Yeah, you don't want Sam to get on the call because he'll talk for 2 hours and not let anybody else have a chance. But anyhow, yeah, so we very similar to what Ellen and Molly were saying. We had already moved forward with doing a lot of virtual trainings. So we were kind of like up to snuff and ready for it, even though we didn't know. And I think that was surprising from leadership and from maybe our membership to realize how quick we could transition. But we had already been doing both. We have 4 branch offices. We'd been doing broker trainings. We averaged about 80 to 100 classes a month, along with webinars. And so we, you know, everything from MLS training, obviously, to designations and different content deliverables. So we basically, and rather than canceling classes or doing anything, we literally just flipped a switch and moved them all online. And then what we did to support the transition with people just needing to know more is we really created a very, very intense webinar series. The CE classes, we really kept very conducive to the timing that we had before, almost just treated it like we would have normally any virtual class that we'd had in the past, or a broadcast. We followed compliance issues that the Texas Real Estate Commission allowed us to put in place. And we were still doing 4-day classes. And we'll talk, I guess, a little bit later about feedback and responsiveness from the members about that and their feedback. But we had set a couple years prior and gotten approval from the commission and from licensing board to get to allow to have continuing education through our digital sign in, sign out. And so we have a QR code that members would scan in and out on, timestamps, pops up their photo, all that fun stuff. And we had a geo-fencing device set up on it, so it would track if they were actually there where they were supposed to be taking the class. Well, we just took the geo-fencing off, and we were able to just move forward with it. And so we've had a lot of success with it. We're still averaging about 80 classes a month. and adding a lot more webinars that are not compliance, because we're in that webinar format, so you can't see the people, but very topic specific, like 1 or 2 very heavy topics. Sometimes they're an hour, sometimes they're 30 minutes. It really just depends on what the content is. But people have been very resilient and accepting of it. And I just felt like we just needed to move forward. People were forgiving if there was any glitches in the beginning, and now we're in that situation where they're going to have high expectations for us. So we've got to bring our, our A game. And so that's really what we've been working on now in regards to that. So prior, we were set up doing, I'd say, about 80 to 85% live training at in any all offices, allowing people to bring their own devices, with the remaining balance being virtual. And since then, obviously now we are 100% virtual.
Yeah, I would imagine that Houston has a small army of trainers to teach that volume of classes. The continuing education or CE classes are a challenge, meeting the state requirements. Maybe perhaps another day we can talk about how you maneuver that minefield. We will have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that a little bit later in the session. Terry, how are things up there in RMLS land? You do say that you're in a crazy real estate world, but Portland's got a reputation now too. So how are you faring?
Well, so far so good. Just got in from the most recent protests. So, no, I'm kidding. It's quite an interesting time in our world, and I can echo pretty much the same things that Molly, Ellen, and Rita have said. Timing's everything. And fortunately for us, in November of 2019, we transitioned to Ring Central as our voice over IP phone system, and not even really considering at that time that the Ring Central meetings component was going to be such a value add to that transition. We had been in a more traditional VoIP system for a decade, and we're looking to get just better functionality. And of course, the timing was perfect. I think it was March 23rd when we officially closed the doors of our physical offices. And we were able to pivot, and very much like Molly, Ellen, and Rita said, we were already teaching content online. It's not as if we didn't have experience with that prior to the pandemic. And then, of course, as everybody else has mentioned as well, you got to take a look at the format of the class, the content of the class, the time of the class, be respectful to the amount of attention that folks can pay. The CE, that is a topic unto itself. We're right. We have subscribers in 2 different states, and I'm sure that many of the folks on the call today do as well. But, the state of Washington couldn't be any different than the state of Oregon when it comes to administering CE. Washington, super strict. Every step of the way is monetized. There's an approval process for instructors, for content. The state of Oregon, yeah, not so much. They tend to be a little bit looser with it, although they do obviously have criteria that must be met. So we continue to provide, the majority of the CE that we've been able to continue to provide is in Oregon. Washington has a 3-hour minimum for CE to be provided. And of course, that just doesn't fit real well in the webinar world. So there are a couple things I think that as a result of this challenge that we have learned. One of those is that, of course, Oregon is a big state. We have subscribers all the way from the very southwest corner to the very northeast corner of the state. Some of those markets are tiny. We've actually seen a pretty dramatic increase in the overall number of folks that we're able to train on a monthly basis now that we have increased the number of web-based classes that we're teaching. Another aspect of this challenge that I'm really proud of is that we, in addition to just taking traditional classes and converting them to web-based, we also opened up what we call a virtual classroom. Which is an opportunity for our subscribers to book in 1-hour blocks of time private virtual assistance with any of our trainers. So literally on a daily basis, our subscribers can go into our registration module, pick virtual one-on-one, pick the date, pick the time. They can string together 2 or 3 one-hour blocks if they think what they need help with is going to take extra time. And that has been very popular. And that's something that we're going to continue with going forward. You know, I think we're all learning, you know, alternative ways to deliver service during this time. And this is one of the things that we will definitely keep in place once we're past this.
Well, I appreciate you addressing some of the challenges that you had there, Terry. There were probably 3 or 4 questions, and you were answering what the challenges you had. The interstate challenge. You know, one of the other things that we're seeing at CMLS is a lot of activity in the local markets. There's people that are actually working harder at home than they may have at the office. And so I guess the next question out for the group that's not on your list, always full of surprises, is the attendance of your classes. Have you seen greater participation in these types of programs? How are you adapting? And I guess as part of that, you could address the third part is, if there are others that are working on implementing these programs, what advice would you give them? So I'll let whoever would like to jump up on the panel. All right, we're looking for, all right, Rita, since you're
okay, I'll try to talk louder. I think my microphone's a little bit low. I'm not sure. I'm getting a new Surface soon tomorrow, so hopefully something's been going haywire with it, but I'll try to talk louder. Yeah, we saw initially a strong influx of members because they were kind of stuck at home without a lot of things to do, taking classes. So our numbers were very high with participation. They kind of leveled off in May. And then we've seen kind of a spike back, which is, if for most of you that know, during the summer, the busy month, and yes, our realtor members are very busy. We've seen actually a 33% increase in student participation from April and May in June and July so far. So it's been pretty good. We have about a 30-person average student per class. That doesn't include like our webinars and things. Those are actual CE classes. So those have been going really well. We've done a lot of surveys to the members. We did some surveying to the members that have actually participated in the Zoom and in broadcast virtual classes to get their feedback. We didn't want to do a participation survey with people that hadn't actually taken classes, with the assumption that they wouldn't know if they liked it. They just would assume they didn't. So we sent a survey out to about 3,000 members, unique members that had taken classes from March through the end of May, and said, you know, we only asked them 2 questions. What did they think of live virtual versus in-class live classes? And why did they answer that way? And we had an 89% response rate saying that they felt like the class live virtual setting was consistent with in-person training, or they liked it better. So it was by far, I mean, by far they were so accepting. They liked it. They didn't really feel like they were missing anything. We asked them, why did they answer the question the way they did? And their response was, it was all about convenience and time. And so we were excited to see that and happy to see that. We have a lot of polling and things that we do on the back end on our private Facebook pages, and kind of let the members share their own feedback rather than us solicit for that feedback. And a lot of them were like, well, I just didn't know if I would like a 4-day class online. And I said, once I took it and I saw that we were able to engage, I felt like there was not all the distractions that would normally be there. And so I got a lot of really great content, and people were very deliberate in their responses and their questions and their chat, rather than a lot of storytelling and things that weren't relevant. You also didn't have that distraction of people showing up late or missing portions of the day and wanting you to catch them up. So it was really great for passive aggressive people that have to facilitate for those compliance issues, where if they weren't back, they could just log them out and then keep them locked out of the class. You know, you can't really do that in live person. You have to either tell people to go ahead and head out the door, or let them know in person they're not going to get credit because they're so late from something. And so that was kind of nice for some of the instructors.
Well, that, you know, bringing down the barrier of training. One of the things is the resistance to thinking they're being subjected to something they're not comfortable with.
Yep.
Is the key to training, and to let them know that it's really available to them, for them, sitting at home in front of their computers. It's a social group. They don't like to go to school all that much. So I think that that's incredible feedback from the standpoint of your survey results, that they appreciate those types of training, or this new virtual offering versus the in-person. The in-person training being one of the most popular prior to the whole COVID breakout. Molly, could you chime in on your thoughts on this subject?
Certainly. I have been really pleased with the reach that this shift has given us. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Like Terry, we cover we're from the south to the north, the east to the west in our state. And if you're at all familiar with Utah, we know we have small cities and large rural areas. So reaching our members has always been a challenge. And sometimes it can take a matter of months to schedule a training in some of the more rural areas and actually get trainers down there. So this has allowed us to expand into their offices more frequently, into their homes even. And I know our rural users specifically have really appreciated and benefited from that. One of the main focuses that we had in our response in making sure we were supporting our users and our membership was actually to first reach out to the brokers. So when things really started to take a turn for the worst and things really started to amp up as far as fear and concern was happening, we reached out to our brokers via email. We told them that we could offer virtual trainings specific to their brokerage, and the response to that was tremendous. We had so much interest, and we knew that what our brokers needed was to be supported in maintaining as much normalcy as possible, including the benefit of CE classes for their agents. So that was a really big success for us, and we had a really enormous and good response from the brokers.
Yeah, I think it's super important that you bring up the point of the visual contact in the absence of physical contact. The brokers do like the to being the center of the universe, and if you can draw their members into their office and an offering presented by them to their agents, it's been proven to be very popular with them. Ellen, we're talking about challenges and reactions. Certainly would love to hear what some of the challenges you've had. I think Molly shared some of the reactions she's getting from brokerage community. What would you like to share on the subject?
Well, I have to echo what Molly said. One unanticipated result is that we have more reach. So our area is separated by tunnels and bridges. And our main office is in one area. And although we do go out to our 2 branch offices for training, our full suite is always typically at the main office. So we've been delighted by increases in attendance too, where in normal times we see a little bit of a slump in the summer because everyone's working so hard on their other jobs. And I'll also say, brokers and agents have been super impressive with their ability to adapt in really all aspects. I mean, now they're conducting live walkthrough tours, becoming camera experts, and I think they're keeping themselves really engaged in many things, and training has been no exception. So that's been really, really positive. Again, the challenge is making sure that you're relevant. I kind of think about Netflix, right? At some point you saturate all the things that you want to watch, but there's that little teaser that says, hey guys, coming soon are going to be some new programs you might be interested in. So trying to come up with these, I call them training sprints of really high value packed sessions, and trying to offer that new class at least once a month has been our strategy to get in front of agents. And we're really evaluating the what's in it for me aspect of training trying to think like an agent. We want to give them 30 minutes of something that they can learn and then use right away and be more efficient and better with the technology tools that they have.
No, thank you. That certainly sounds like a win-win offering there. Terry, you've talked about challenges. Why don't you, how are your brokers and agents responding to the new environment?
Well, I think, as I mentioned previously, I think I mentioned this previously, we've seen a pretty dramatic uptick in the total number of folks that we're able to reach on a monthly basis. As Molly mentioned, and the other folks have mentioned as well, we've broken down the geographical barriers. Prior to COVID, even though we offered some webinar content, there were a lot of folks that just, I think, didn't feel comfortable attending a virtual meeting online. And of course, we're all fully engaged in Zoom or Ring Central or whatever the product is now. We've had very little issues with folks not being able to utilize the technology to participate. We reach out and communicate with our entire subscribership once a week, and of course also on our website. We always have articles and such on the desktop. Much like Molly, we're self-developed here in Portland. We have our own programmers and whatever, so we've got a little bit of a leg up, I think, when it comes to perhaps integrating some things a little bit more quickly. But I've seen a lot of our brokerages, mostly in the Portland metro area, really pick up the concept and start marketing, as folks mentioned previously, to their individual company realtors or whatever. We've done a lot of, prior to COVID, we did a lot of in-person training in brokerages, oftentimes facilitated by the title and escrow folks. Portland Metro is very competitive with the title and escrow side of the industry, and they're out, they have sales folks out in the marketplace. It feels like 24/7, 365, sort of trying to wrangle up new business, and they use, education as leverage to get that business. So we've got a great relationship with our title and escrow partners, and as a result of that, again, we've seen an actual increase in the number of people that we're able to touch with training as opposed to prior to COVID.
I think I'll round out the question to the group with one about how has your training offerings changed or evolved? Certainly what we're hearing across the nation is, inventories are impacted. In a lot of markets, they're lower, but sales are still strong. Your memberships are still holding. That may be a concern for 2021 that we'll need to address. And ultimately, we are addressing those issues real time in our own local markets. But what new offerings have you come up with in your marketplace that you didn't consider before? Have you changed your offering from the standard search, look, or reports, print mindset? What else out there are you using or utilizing at this point? Would any of you like to volunteer? You can wave your hand at me. I will. All right, Ellen.
Well, our marketing has always worked, our marketing teams have always worked really closely with training, but we've been leveraging social media as a way to promote training, but also to work on some blogs and some other interesting things. And we've gone from our usual monthly stat reporting to weekly stat reporting, and we were trying to pull out something interesting in the market. I think the latest one is in our market. Homes that sold last week did so in about 8 days faster than the same week the prior year. So we're helping agents and brokers identify these trends that they can share with clients. Our motivation right now in marketing is to convince people that it's a great time to list, to kind of combat that inventory problem. So our stats are focused around that. But I think that's made agents excited and brokers too. And we're also sharing that in a really nice graphic form. So we're doing some marketing legwork for them. And then we can also tie in, hey, I can teach you how to do this as well, so you can do it on your own. So that's something a little bit new and kind of fun for the agents and brokers. And it's fun for us too. I mean, I don't think any of us realized how much we'd become data analysts and trend observers, but that's something we do now weekly.
Well, never underestimate the public, and there's, from all intents and indicators, the public's spending an inordinate amount of time looking at that stuff, and recognizing the real estate trends in the local market certainly seems like you're on the right track there, Ellen, in serving the consumer needs. Rita, I thought I saw you either wave your hand or something you'd like to comment.
So I, really the change has been that we've been able to be a lot more deliberate with our marketing. We haven't been kept to just sending out messages on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis in our magazine or in our weekly email. It can be very much more targeted at messaging. The members are a lot more receptive to it. Something that we had been doing for about a year and a half already. And it was very successful, but has even gotten more successful is our Monday morning, we call it Member Focus Monday. And initially, when we transitioned from Tempo and Fusion MLS to Matrix, we called it Matrix Mondays. And so every Monday we would kind of do a quick Facebook Live session on a did you know this about Matrix, giving them some quick tips. And once we were complete with the transaction, we went to our transition, we moved over to calling it Member Focus Monday. And so we were able to host guest speakers in a live Facebook format for about 30 minutes every Monday at 9 o'clock to the members. We promote it through all our outlets. And we're very, very specific on topic that's relevant to the viewers. So like when we had the regional head of the SBA lending out, right before all the loans were happening, we could talk about flood control and have somebody, or we have somebody political speak. So it's not all industry specific, but things that'll affect both the community and the agent. We get a phenomenal amount of viewership from it. They've come to know it's going to happen at 9 o'clock. And then we put it on our HAR TV YouTube channel. So it's a free, easy way for us to reach out to our members, communicate with them. As you guys know, the political climate and the climate with issues with fair housing and steering and all that. So we've had a lot of guest speakers come on and talk about diversity in real estate, fair housing issues. And we've been able to get some speakers and presenters or interviewees, so to speak, that are very that are unusual to what we would normally be able to get and have exposed to a large group of members. Our membership is 40,000. We have seen an increase in membership. We kind of dropped off initially to about 38. Now we're back over 40. And we've seen that trend every time there's a recession, people get in real estate. So, it just kind of seems like the numbers are going up, but it's been successful that we've just used that technology and people are becoming accustomed and used to it, and they can choose what they want when they want it. So when people say, are they going to get zoomed out? Well, yeah, they can, but they can turn it on or off whenever they want. So that's the good part about it. But that's something that any of your groups could do on a regular basis for your target audience, and it's free and it's pretty easy. So.
Yeah, the theme and thread here of the touch points with the membership, even on this call, seeing all of you, it's certainly good to see you. Molly or Terry, do you have anything you'd like to add to that last question that I had before I go on to moving on towards our breakout sessions?
Yes, if that's all right, I'll take a moment to just talk a little bit about what has really changed for us as a team. We have always had a really strong focus on offering CE credit. In addition to that being a benefit to our members in order to earn credits toward their license by taking our classes, it helps us reach a bigger audience. It helps us reach those members that might not seek out MLS training, but instead are interested in renewing their license, and it gets them into our classrooms. So no matter why they're there, that's a new audience member for us. So we've always had a focus on that. That's really important to us. Switching to virtual only created a big challenge around licensing credits. The state of Utah has never allowed for credits to be offered in a virtual live format. It was always on demand or in person. And so like everybody, the Division of Real Estate here in Utah had to get more flexible. And it was pretty challenging at first. They initially had us send a proposal for what we thought would be an engaging training that would kind of prove, for lack of a better term, that someone had attended and stayed engaged. And then after approving that, a few weeks later, they came back to us with their own set of rules for everyone. And some of those rules could restrict access for less computer savvy learners. And so eventually we kind of met in the middle. We suggested a blend of our proposal with theirs. And while we appreciate the Division of Real Estate being so flexible, we've also had to rely on the flexibility of the membership. Some of the other panelists were mentioning how everything changed and everyone had to start thinking differently about what they thought training was, or what they expected from a training, or what kind of training they'd be comfortable with. I think it was Rita mentioning that someone who might not be comfortable with a webinar in the past is suddenly having to attend in that manner. So we've really just worked with the state to adjust so that we can keep offering licensing credits, because that's a really big benefit to our members. So that was a big change for us. As another panelist said before, my best advice is lean into it. It's not going to be perfect the first time. If you haven't done any virtual training yet, just expect to learn from your mistakes and just let it be a learning experience. So,
Molly, thank you for that. Obviously the virtual training has provided its challenges, but everything you just outlined sound like opportunities to me. And I think that those opportunities are there. Hey, Terry, I'm going to give you the last word. Let all those ladies go first. The guy gets to go last here. Would you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, obviously I can echo the sentiment. Your panelists today are just amazing people, and obviously they've worked really diligently to help their subscribers, continue to achieve great educational opportunities during this challenging time. To go back to one of the things I mentioned previously about our virtual classroom concept and the opportunity for our subscribers to not only have access to a much larger variety of scheduled webinars, they now have the opportunity to schedule one-on-one time virtually any hour of the business day with any one of my trainers. I have a set of 7 sort of full-time trainers sort of spread across the company, and then I have some folks that do it on sort of a part-time basis as well. And as I say, that virtual one-on-one, the opportunity to select a time, get into a virtual training room with one of my trainers and talk about anything that they want. It can cover, topics from A to Z, again, digging in deeper on some of the stuff that they're having a little bit more difficulty with. And then additionally, a thing that we did prior to this pandemic was we had what we called open house on Fridays from 10 to noon. And what that was just a drop-in lab. You could swing by any of our offices without an appointment. There was a trainer ready, willing, and able to help you with whatever help that you needed. Well, that was great unless you got a bunch of people dropping in all at the same time, and then it sort of complicated it. So what we're planning on doing, we haven't executed this just yet, is doing a virtual open house on Fridays where we'll have a single point of entry for our subscribers. The person that's manning that initial room will sort of ascertain what it is that you need help with today. You're having trouble with searching and search results, or how to do a CMA, or whatever it may be. And then the trainer can filter that person over to sort of a sub room that is dedicated specifically to that area of the MLS system. So we're looking forward to getting that going as well. And again, as I say, we've seen a pretty decent increase in the overall number of folks that we're able to touch. And I think it's in part because we've been really versatile. We were very quick to pivot, and we have, subsequent to the early days in the pandemic, we've now added the one-on-one opportunities, soon to be adding the virtual open house on Fridays. And I think in the big picture, our subscribers have really appreciated what we're doing.
You know, Terry, thank you very much for saying that. You know, you've just gave the group two excellent examples of how you've adapted and are actually addressing, you know, some of the folks that normally may not attend. I'd like to thank Rita, Ellen, Molly, Terry, and I want to just let you all know, and Terry said how impressed he was with this group. I do want to tell you all to hang out on the call. You haven't seen anything yet, because the value of MLS Matters is when you get to go into these breakout sessions, which Betsy will do here in a minute, and you have the opportunity individually to talk to each one of these panelists. It's kind of like Christmas, because you won't know what panelists you're going to get, but they will be there. Betsy, did you have a little bit of, there was a couple slides that I think I was supposed to share with the group before you did your magic, or are we going to go right into breakouts?
If you wanted to just very quickly, I should be screen sharing.
I do. So hopefully all of you are familiar with the cmls.org. This is a site that you can actually go into through your membership and log in. CMLS has put together a wealth of information on the COVID-19 situation, pandemic, with incredible resources, up-to-date resources from all over the country. Again, the sharing of the information, the taking of these documents and sharing with your members is strongly encouraged. CMLS is the marketplace supporter where information for you as MLS executives in the form of resources that you can share with your members is located. I think there's another slide to this that I do want to touch a little bit on, and that is where you find the information and information when things come up that are new through CMLS. And that's the announcements that can be found under the member forum within the site. Here is the place where you know, you want to share your experiences of how you've, Terry, how you do the one-on-one sessions with your members, or your open house Fridays, or statistics that you share with your customers, Ellen. We would love for you to be here and transact and conduct those kinds of conversations here, because it's where people are going to expect it. Now, most important thing that you need to look at on this page is your profile. It's a struggle on our own home systems to keep the members and their profiles current. So come on, people. It's not a huge group. We need the CMLS members to go in there and update their profile. Keep your email addresses current, your company affiliations current, so that you are in the know with respect to MLS goings on now and in the future. So I think at this point that finished up rounded out the slides of housekeeping that I was supposed to cover. And you're going to go into a virtual roundtable. We hope that you have your camera turned on. You'll all be muted. This is your chance to talk and ask questions of everybody. And most of all, on behalf of the Council Multiple Listing Services and the Board of Directors at the Council Multiple Listing Services, who many of which are your moderators for your breakout sessions, incredible lineup of those folks, we'd like to thank you for attending MLS Matters this week, and we hope that you will attend future events and offerings from the Council Multiple Listing Services in the future. So don't go anywhere. Betsy's going to wave her magic wand, and you are going to wind up in your breakout session with one of these incredible, awesome speakers on educational events during COVID-19. Thank you very much.